Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My fiance and I have been together for 5 years when we decided to start a family. We were both in our early 30s, had stable jobs, and felt ready for the next big step. She worked as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm, and I was a software developer. Throughout the pregnancy, she continued to work hard, rarely taking time off even when morning sickness hit her hard. As her due date approached, we started preparing for maternity leave. Human Resources gave her the paperwork about 2 to 3 weeks before she was due. We thought this was cutting it close, but we didn't worry too much. She promptly filled out her part and took the forms to her doctor. The doctor told us it would take about a week for the forms to be ready. We thought that would be fine, as the baby wasn't due for another few weeks. Little did we know how quickly things would change. On Sunday, August 4th, my fiancée started feeling contractions. The next day, she insisted on going to work despite my protests. "Honey, are you sure you should go in today? You were having contractions yesterday." "I feel okay now. I want to tie up some loose ends before I go on leave. Don't worry, I'll be fine." I reluctantly agreed, but she called me a few hours later to pick her up. We went straight to the obstetrician, who gave us unexpected news. "Based on what I'm seeing, it looks like you'll be delivering sometime this week. Keep monitoring your contractions and be ready to come to the hospital at any time." We asked about the maternity leave forms, and the doctor assured us they had faxed most of them back to the employer. There was just one form left for my fiancé to return. The next morning, Tuesday, August 6th, everything changed. My fiancé's water broke at 7 a.m. as we were settling into the delivery room. She received a shocking text from her supervisor. She says, "You're not gonna believe this. They are threatening to fire me for not turning in my paperwork. Apparently, Human Resources has been discussing this since yesterday." I was furious and immediately called her supervisor. "Are you seriously threatening to fire her while she's in labor?" "Look, it's nothing personal. She failed to submit her paperwork on time, and that's a serious issue for the company. She's been working up until yesterday. The doctor told us they faxed most of the forms back to you. There is only one form left, which we haven't even received yet." The conversation went nowhere, so I ended the call. The nurse who had overheard offered to contact the hospital's patient advocate for us. Within an hour, a patient advocate arrived and listened to our story. She was appalled by the company's behavior and offered to help. "This is clearly a violation of your rights under the Family and Medical Leave Act. I am going to make some calls on your behalf." While my fiancée focused on her labor, the patient advocate worked tirelessly, contacting the company's human resources department and explaining the situation. She also reached out to a lawyer for advice. Hours passed, filled with contractions, encouragement, and moments of joy, mixed with stress about the job situation. Finally, at 8:23 p.m., our beautiful baby girl was born. The next morning, the patient advocate returned with news. After speaking with Human Resources and threatening legal action, they backtracked completely. They claim there was a miscommunication and that your job is secure. They've also extended your maternity leave by an additional 2 weeks as an apology. Additionally, your supervisor acted without proper authority in threatening your job. The company has placed him on administrative leave pending an investigation. We were relieved but still angry about the whole ordeal. The stress and fear we'd experienced during what should have been one of the happiest moments of our lives left a bitter taste. Thank you so much for all your help. We couldn't have navigated this without you. You're welcome. No one should have to go through what you did. I'm glad I could help make it right." As the patient advocate left, my fiancée held our daughter close and looked at me with determination in her eyes. "You know, I am not sure I want to go back to that company after my leave. Maybe it's time to look for a new job, one that values its employees more." I nodded in agreement. While the memory of those stressful hours would linger, we were determined to focus on the joy of our new family and the brighter future ahead. My story starts when I was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 10. My parents were devastated, not just because of my health, but also because they knew how expensive managing this condition would be. We live in a small town in a country that's not exactly known for its great healthcare system. My parents work hard, but money's always been tight. When I started middle school, things got even tougher. Most of the kids in my class came from well off families, and there was this one teacher who seemed to have it out for me from day one. She taught math and she was known for offering private tutoring sessions after school. These classes weren't cheap. Almost everyone in my grade attended them. My parents couldn't afford it, and that's when the trouble really started. One day, about 2 months into the school year, I was sitting in class when I started feeling dizzy. I knew I needed my insulin, so I raised my hand. Excuse me, teacher, I need to take my insulin. The teacher looked at me with cold eyes and said, You can wait until after class. We're in the middle of an important lesson. I was shocked. She knew about my condition. All the teachers did, but I really need it now. I'm not feeling well. I said, after class. Now pay attention. I tried to focus, but I could feel my blood sugar dropping. By the time class ended, I was shaking and could barely stand. I stumbled to my bag to get my insulin, but when I opened it, I couldn't find it. Panicking, I looked up at the teacher who was still at her desk. I can't find my insulin. Did someone take it? She smirked and pulled out a small case from her drawer. Oh, you mean this? I confiscated it at the beginning of the class. Can't have you disrupting the lesson, can we? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I reached out for the case, but she pulled it away. Not so fast. Maybe if your parents cared enough about your education to enroll you in my private classes, I'd be more inclined to help you. By this point, I was barely conscious. One of my classmates must have realized something was seriously wrong because the next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed 3 days later. My parents were there looking worried and angry. They told me I'd been in a diabetic coma and that things had gotten pretty crazy while I was out. Apparently, word had spread quickly about what the teacher had done. My extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, they all got involved. Our neighbors and family friends joined in too. They were furious that a teacher would put a student's life at risk like that. My uncle filled me in on what happened next. We went to the school to demand answers, but they tried to brush us off. That's when things got heated. Someone spotted the teacher trying to leave in her car, and well, let's just say her car won't be going anywhere for a while. What do you mean? Some of the younger guys might have set it on fire. I'm not saying it was right, but can you blame them? She nearly killed you. I was shocked. I'd never imagined anything like this happening in our quiet town, but it wasn't over yet. The incident caught the attention of the local media, and soon the whole country was talking about it. The school couldn't ignore it anymore. They fired the teacher and suspended her teaching license pending an investigation. But it didn't stop there. As more details came to light, it turned out this wasn't the first time she'd mistreated students who couldn't afford her private classes. She'd been using her position to pressure parents into paying for extra tutoring, sometimes even threatening to fail students if their parents didn't comply. The police got involved and they uncovered a whole network of corruption within the school system. Several administrators were implicated in a scheme to funnel students into expensive private tutoring sessions in exchange for kickbacks. As for the teacher, she was arrested and charged with child endangerment, extortion, and a host of other crimes. Last I heard, she's facing up to 15 years in prison. The whole ordeal led to some big changes in our town. The school board was dissolved and replaced with a new one committed to providing equal opportunities for all students. They implemented a program to help low-income families access necessary school supplies and tutoring at no cost. As for me, I received an outpouring of support from the community. People I'd never even met before donated money to help cover my medical bills and ensure I always had access to insulin. A local doctor even offered to provide free checkups for me and other kids with chronic health conditions. It's been a year since all this happened and things are slowly getting back to normal. Well, a new normal. I still have diabetes, but I'm managing it better now with the support I have. The new teachers at school are much more understanding and accommodating. Sometimes I think about that day in class and how differently things could have turned out. It's scary to think that one person's greed and entitlement could have cost me my life. But I'm also amazed at how my community came together to fight for me. I never wanted to be at the center of such a big controversy, but if what happened to me helps prevent other kids from going through something similar, then maybe it was worth it. As for me, I'm focusing on my studies and dreaming of becoming a doctor someday. I want to help kids like me who aren't dealing with chronic illnesses. It's funny how life works sometimes. One moment you're just a kid trying to get through school, and the next, you're at the center of a national scandal. But I guess that's how change happens. One person, one story at a time. And if my story can make a difference, well, that's something I can be proud of. My life hasn't been easy, to say the least. From a young age, I knew I was different. At 5, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and in my early teens, they added Asperger's to the list. Throw in severe social anxiety and depression, and you've got a recipe for a challenging life. But the real kicker? My family. Instead of supporting me, they decided I was not normal and would never amount to anything. They treated me like I was worthless, especially compared to my sister, who they saw as perfect. It was always about her. She got the praise, the attention, the gifts. Me? I was lucky if they remembered I existed. My sister knew she was a favorite and used it to her advantage. She'd torment me, insult me, and make my life miserable. And my parents? They'd just shrug it off. As we got older, things didn't improve. I was stuck living at home due to my mental health issues, feeling like nothing more than unpaid help. And then came yesterday. It started like any other day. My parents told me they had to work late at the local public hall, where they put on plays. No big deal, right? I was used to being alone, so I settled in for a long day of dog sitting our English Springer Spaniel Leah. 12 hours passed, then 13, and finally at half past midnight, I heard the front door open. Hey, how's work? I ask. Oh, it was good. Mom answers. I noticed shopping bags in their hands and my sister grinning from ear to ear. What's going on? Where were you really? Dad answers. Well, we went to London. London? But you said you were working. Sister says. We went to the Harry Potter world of wizardry. And then shopping. Look at all the stuff I got. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. They lied to me. They left me here for over 12 hours to take my sister on a fun day out. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ask me to come? We didn't want to upset your sister. You know how she gets. Yeah, we needed someone to watch the dog. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They used me as free labor so they could spoil my sister without her complaining about my presence. So you're going to pay me for watching the dog all day, right? They laughed. Actually laughed. Here, we got you something. She handed me a box of chocolates. How much did this trip cost you? Quite a bit, actually. And how much were these chocolates? £6. I lost it. I told them exactly where they could shove those chocolates. Don't be ungrateful. You should have enjoyed the time away from the family. But this wasn't the first time. There was a Deadpool movie incident where they went without me and my sister came back gloating about her souvenirs. And let's not forget the family trip to the USA last year. The second one they took without me because they didn't want to deal with my sister's witching. As I stood there, seething with anger, something in me snapped. I'd had enough. You know what? I'm done. I'm done being your unpaid servant. I'm done being treated like I'm worthless. Don't be dramatic. No, you don't get to tell me how I feel. You've made it clear where I stand in this family. Well, guess what? I don't need to stand here anymore. I grabbed my phone and called the one person I knew I could trust. My therapist. I need help. I can't stay here anymore. To their credit, my therapist acted quickly. Within a week, I was moved into a supported living facility. It was imperfect, but it was a fresh start. As for my family, they tried to backpedal when they realized I was serious. Suddenly, they were full of apologies and promises to do better. But it was too little, too late. The day I left, my sister actually looked concerned for once. You're really leaving? Yes, I am. Maybe now you'll realize that treating people like dirt has consequences. It's been 6 months since then. I'm in therapy, working on my issues, and slowly building a life for myself. It's hard, but for the first time, I felt like I have worth. And my family, well, they've tried to contact me, but I'm not ready. Maybe someday, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and growing. Because despite what they always told me, I'm capable of amounting to something. And I'm going to prove it one way at a time. It began with small comments about feeling trapped, missing out on life. I tried to be understanding, suggested date nights, even encouraged her to pursue hobbies, but nothing seemed to satisfy her. Then one day she just left. No warning, no goodbye. Just a note saying she needed to find herself and enjoy her youth. I was devastated. The kids were confused and heartbroken. How do you explain to a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old that mommy isn't coming home? We struggled through that first year, the divorce proceedings dragging on. When the judge finally ordered her to pay child support and alimony, I thought maybe we could move forward. But that's when a real nightmare began. The first incident left me shocked. Child Protective Services showed up at our door with a detective. They said there had been a report of inappropriate behavior between my sons. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What? That's impossible. They are just little kids. Detective says, Sir, we have to investigate all reports. Can we speak with your sons? It turned out my older boy was just doing some silly dance he'd seen online behind his little brother. The case was quickly closed, but the damage was done. My ex-wife had stooped so low as to accuse our own children of such a thing. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. I went to pick up the kids from school one day, and there were police cars waiting. Officer says, Sir, we've received a report that you've been drinking and driving. We'll need you to step out of the vehicle. What? I haven't had a drop of alcohol. I'm just here to pick up my kids. I understand, sir, but we need to follow protocol. Please step out and complete a superiority test. There I was in front of other parents and teachers, forced to walk in a straight line and touch my nose. The breathalyzer came back clean, of course, but the humiliation was already complete. Officer, this is clearly harassment from my ex-wife. What can I do about this? Well, if it continues, you can file a harassment complaint. But for now, there is not much we can do. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks ago, during her weekend visitation, my ex-wife pulled her most outrageous stunt yet. My youngest daughter wasn't allowed to leave her mom's room, and my oldest was forced to babysit. When they came home, Child Protective Services was waiting. CPS worker says, I'm sorry, but we've received a serious allegation. We need to place your children with a relative while we investigate. What? This is ridiculous. My fiance's family can take them. I'm afraid it has to be a direct relative. All my relatives are in Texas. I can fly the kids there. I'm sorry, but that's not possible. They'll have to stay with their mother for now. And just like that, my kids were taken away. The next blow came when I learned of the accusation. RAPE. Me accused of doing that to my own children. It was beyond comprehension. I've been cooperating fully with the investigation, but the stress is unbearable. My ex-wife's false accusations have escalated from ridiculous to life-destroying. I've lost count to the sleepless night, the tears, and the anger. But I'm not giving up. I've started gathering evidence of all her false reports. Every police visit, every CPS investigation, every baseless accusation. I've hired a lawyer who specializes in false allegations and parental alienation. He says, we're going to file for full custody and press charges for false reporting and harassment. Your ex-wife has created a paper trail of lies that will work against her. Will we really win this? It won't be easy, but we have a strong case. Her pattern of behavior is clear, and we have documentation to prove it. It's been a long, hard road, but I'm finally fighting back. The kids are home now, and the investigation cleared me of all the charges. My ex-wife's lies have finally caught up with her. The judge wasn't happy when he saw the mountain of evidence against her. He says, this court takes a very dim view of false allegations, especially those involving children. Custody is hereby awarded to the father, with supervised visitation for the mother pending completion of a psychological evaluation and parenting classes. The look on my ex-wife's face when the judgment came down was filled with rage. But for the first time in years, I am feeling good. It's not over. We still have a long way to go in healing as a family, but at least now we can start moving forward without constantly looking over our shoulders. As we left the courthouse, my oldest daughter squeezed my hand. Dad, is it really over? Yes, sweetheart, it's really over. We're going to be okay now. And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.